0.
If You Decide to Go to the Moon by Faith McNulty. If you decide to go to the moon in your own rocket ship, read this book before you start. It will tell you how to get there and what to do after you land. The most important parts tell you how to get home. Check the things you will need: spacesuit, air tanks, books, and games. Don't forget your diary and plenty of food. Peanut butter, apples, and cake will taste good in space. Water and juice are also important. To get to the moon, you will travel about 240,000 miles, a long trip, but rocket ships do go fast. If you average 3,750 miles per hour, you'll get there in 2.5 days. Get aboard. Close the hatch. Light the burners. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. You shoot up, up, up into the sky. As your ship rises through the clouds, your body is pressed against the seat. At first you will feel very heavy, but don't worry, this feeling will soon go away. For a few seconds you fly through a mixture of clouds and air and dust that hangs over the earth. It is not very thick, only about 15 miles. You'll shoot right through it into space. Space is dark and empty. There's no air in space, no cloud, no rain, only a few specks of dust, some rocks called meteors, and some chunks of ice called comets. Space is so big, you're so small, that a collision is unlikely with any of those. In the blackness of space, the stars shine like a million fireflies. The sun blazes with fiery light. In the moon, the mysterious moon, glows like a pearl in the black, black sky. Of course, you know the moon has no light of its own. It glows in the light of the sun. Up in here in space, you may feel very alone. Don't look back at the Earth. It would make you feel even lonelier. This is some time to play some cheerful music, eat a peanut butter sandwich, and settle down for a long ride. Relax, take off your seatbelt, and be prepared for a surprise. Because you're weightless in space, you'll feel amazingly light. You'll float like a feather inside of the cabin and bounce off the cabin walls. When you're thirsty, don't try to pour an orange juice into a glass. With everything weightless, it'll collect into floating balls and become an orange juice blob. You can drink out of a squeeze bottle instead. After a supper and a squeeze of juice, it's time for bed. Tie yourself to your bunk so you don't float away, and settle down for a good night's sleep. Of course, there is no night in space. You'll have to try to pretend. Try to have sweet dreams. When you wake, you'll be much closer to the moon. It'll be big and round and very bright, with dark patches that also look like lakes or seas. They were made billions of years ago. Now and then, melted stone spurted up through the crust and spread onto the surface of the moon like spilled soup. When it cooled, it hardened to stone called lava. From Earth, these smooth, dark places look like oceans. Playing cards will help you pass the time, but if you drop them, they will drift around the cabin like butterflies. Floating around to catch them feels like swimming in a dream. The first humans to go to the moon landed on this sea of tranquility. It is marked on your moon map and would be a good place to land. But you still have a way to go, and when you're tired, you lie down and look at the stars. On Earth, you see only the stars that are above you. Up here, you see stars that are every direction. At last, when you have read all your books, played all your games, you wake from a nap and see the moon right there below you. You look down on an endless desert. Everything is all one color, silvery gray. The ground is covered with rocks and round craters. Craters are holes made by meteors that have rained down on the moon throughout the ages. Some were huge and made deep holes hundreds of miles across. Of course, you stayed clear of the rocky places. At last you see a lava lake below, the Sea of Tranquility. Get ready to land. As you descend, your craft shivers and shakes. It settles softly, and you feel a bump. You're on the moon. Your first look will be disappointing. All you see through the porthole is a cloud of dust stirred up by your landing. Put on your spacesuit and air tank while you wait for it to settle, then open the hatch and jump out. You will land lightly. The moon is smaller than Earth and has less gravity to pull you down. If you weigh 60 pounds on Earth, you'll weigh only 10 pounds on the moon. Your first step will be difficult. You'll rise in the air and leap forward like a kangaroo, but once you learn how, walking will be fun. Each step takes you 5 times as far as a step on Earth. You can leap over boulders and craters. The moonscape is strange, but it doesn't look dangerous. The dust reminds you of cake flour. You just wish you could take off your suit and play in it, but don't do it. The heat of the sun would burn you up. As you walk, you'll notice that your boots don't crunch on the pebbles. If you were to take a hammer and hit a rock, there's no bang. It is impossible to make a noise on the moon. Without air to carry sound waves, you can't hear a bell ring, you can't hear a horn blow. As you keep walking, the silence and stillness are eerie. Nothing moves. The boulders and hills have strange shapes. Some hills look like dinosaurs. Some boulders look like giant turtles. You feel as you might be in a fairy tale, or is it a dream? Your map tells you that astronauts camp is just over the next hill. As you climb, you wonder if things will look different on the other side. Will you find something green, something alive? A meadow of moongrass? A herd of moon cows? The answer is no. The hills stretch on and on to the horizon where the rim of the moon meets the blackness of space. Everything on the moon is lifeless and still. To find the astronauts' camp, climb to the top of a boulder and use your binoculars to scan the distance. Look for a patch of color, the red, white, and blue of the flag that the astronauts left behind. As you get close to the camp, you'll see everything the astronauts left behind. You'll find tools, equipment, their boot prints still look fresh. There's no wind or rain to wear them away. The astronauts left a message for anyone who visits the moon. You'll find it written on a plaque. Here, men from the planet Earth first set foot on the moon on July 1969. But the flag they planted isn't flying. The flagpole was blown over from the blast when the astronauts took off, and the flag is lying in the dust. You pick it up and push it deep into the sand. The flag is stiffened with wire so it looks as though it's flying even though there's no wind. If our astronauts ever return, they'll find the flag flying once again, and your footprints in the dust. By now, your tank of air must be half empty. It is time to return to your ship. You retrace your steps in leaps and bounds. When you see your spaceship waiting, you're suddenly terribly homesick. You can't wait to get back to Earth. Take a last look at the moonscape. Get aboard, close the hatch, and pray that the computers will start. You push buttons, lights flicker, rockets fire, and your ship lifts off. Your heart lifts too, but you have thousands of miles to travel. You'll just have to be patient. The nearer you get to Earth, the more wonderful Earth will see. Finally, you're close enough to see the continents and the oceans. You can see clouds and rain moving across them, connecting everything on Earth. As you look down at the oceans, you think of all the animals that live there. Fish, whales, seals, soaring seabirds, and countless more. You can now see the snow cap at the North Pole. Imagine the great white bears wandering over the ice floes. You can see Earth's marvelous variety: green forests, grassy plains, mountains, lakes, and deserts that are home to animals, plants, and people too. Why is Earth so different from the moon? Earth has air and water, on which all life depends. Without them, Earth would be as lifeless as the moon. Air and water are Earth's special blessings. We must guard them well. Your trip is almost over. Your ship has reached the atmosphere. You drop down through clouds and land on green grass. You jump out, thankful for a miraculous journey and a safe return. As you bend down to kiss the ground, you promise you'll always do your best to protect all life on our beautiful Earth.